Good morning. Hi, everybody, viewers of any kind. Meditate before you medicate. That's related to a discussion we had a few days ago. And we have Joy in the diffuser today, the little orb diffuser. And I'll do an oil scope after this one. We'll talk about Joy. Meditate before you medicate. And then, if you need to medicate, do so. Don't deny yourself medication. Just try some other things. Viewers of any kind. I get tired of saying replay viewers, web viewers. I always want to say zombie viewers, like you said the other day. Good morning. Meditate before you medicate. That's our truth bomb today. But medicate if you need to. I'm not opposed to medication, but as a last resort, please. Consider it as a last resort. Unless you're like in bad shape and go for it and then try something else later. So we'll come back and talk about Joy after. Hey, good morning. And I have dryer balls. Hey, Gay! Hey, Ben. Nice scope. So sorry I didn't catch it live. My notifications weren't on and I was cruising around and missed it. I saw the replay though. It really was cool to find out about the red pencil. I'm going to try that myself. I have dryer balls and I have balls and some oils you can put on them to talk about later. You need to get you some balls? Well, go get you some. You can buy your own balls. We can juggle these balls. I can't juggle. We'll talk about that after. Let's talk about big magic first. I'm going to go, what'd you do today? Oh, I went and bought some balls. You know, felt like I needed some. Went and bought some at the Walmart. Actually, I don't think you can get them at Walmart. You can find me at caddyshackdesigns.com. Across the top of the website are tabs with everything that I do. All you want to know and more. And things maybe you didn't want to know about cats, like types of litter to use. I have like 3 product reviews I still haven't done. Ugh. Anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about big magic and creativity. Creativity being sacred and not sacred. I think creativity is vital. I'm sure that I would die without it. Well, I think it's a safe assumption that I'll say it. Ben has balls, you guys, just so you know. Any of the men watching this, I'm assuming, have some or a replacement because, you know, some people have had testicular cancer, not something to take lightly. But even then you get replacements. My uncle-in-law has a replacement, a Teflon. I think it's Teflon. It's a replacement because he had testicular cancer. Okay. Let's talk about Elizabeth Gilbert, who is awesome. We love her. She's so awesome. We're talking about radiation canaries today. We're on page 127 if you're in the book. Well, we are honest. We have honest discussion. And sometimes that includes balls and testicular issues. And ovaries and whatnots and hormones. And, you know, we degenerate into discussions related to estrogen. We might as well give some airtime to testosterone too. Radiation canaries is where we're at today, guys. Let's just jump right in. Oh, here's one thing that was on my mind this morning. When you're doing goal setting or target setting, or when you're thinking about things you want to experience in your life or add to them, make sure that you've accepted what the current reality is first. I mean, you can set your target and do those things, but if you're still fighting against the reality of what is, you're achieving your target, you're taking your next step can be tangled up, I guess. Radiation canaries. Do you think I'm wrong? Are you one of those people who believe that the arts are the most serious and important thing in the world? Also called snobby? If so, my friend, then you and I must part ways right here. I offer up my own life as irrefutable evidence that the arts don't matter as much as we sometimes trick ourselves into believing they do. Because let's be honest, you would be hard-pressed to identify a job that is not objectively more valuable to society than mine. Name a profession, any profession, teacher, doctor, custodian, rancher, sex worker, there you go. Even the ever-meaningless consultant, each is infinitely more essential to the smooth maintenance of the human community than any novelist ever was or ever will be. I was watching Sesame Street yesterday because that's what you do on Twin Days. And there's a character on there, her name is Abby, and the girls love her, and she's really cute. But they were making art projects, and Abby forgot her art supplies. And so she cast a magic spell with her little wand, and all these random objects started falling from the sky. And one of the characters were like, "Those aren't art supplies." And she was like, "Yes, they are." It was like sponges and, random things you can make color with. And I really liked that they were showing that you can make art out of anything. You don't have to have special supplies. You don't have to have things labeled. It's nice, but you don't have to. You can make art with anything you have around the house. So I thought it was really cute that Sesame Street did that. And then I felt my IQ points drop a few. Sesame Street's a little bit tedious sometimes. It's no NPR, let's just say that. There was once a terrific exchange. Prismacolor pencils falling from the sky. That would be the day. There was once a terrific exchange on the TV show 30 Rock that distilled this idea down to its irreducible nucleus, which, by the way, if you've never watched 30 Rock, it can take a few episodes to get into it, but it's an amazingly funny series. It's over, but you can get it on Netflix. Jack Donaghy was mocking Liz Lemon for her utter uselessness to society as a mere writer, while she tried to defend her fundamental social importance. Jack, in a post-apocalyptic world, how would society even use you? Liz, traveling bard. Jack, radiation canary. I think Jack was right, but I do not find this truth to be dispiriting. On the contrary, I find it thrilling. The fact that I get to spend my life making objectively useless things means that I don't live in a post-apocalyptic dystopia. It means I'm not exclusively chained to the grind of mere survival. It means we still have enough space left in our civilization for the luxuries of imagination and beauty and emotion and even total frivolousness, right? That's where we need to count our blessings and look at gratitude. If we have enough time to feel discontent, we have enough time to create. Because people working at survival subsistence level don't have time to feel discontent even. They don't have time to even feel the restlessness of something creative wanting to be born in them because they're working their asses off just to survive, or they're slaves, or, they're working in the mines. So the fact that we get to do that, the fact that we get to even contemplate these things because we're not out, hunting every bite of food that has to go in our mouths and our family's mouths, means we're really, really lucky. We're really, really blessed. Pure creativity is magnificent expressly because it is the opposite of everything else in life that's essential or inescapable. Food, shelter, medicine, rule of law, etc. Sickness, loss, death, taxes. Pure creativity is something better than a necessity. It's a gift. It's the frosting. Our creativity is a wild and unexpected bonus from the universe. It's as if all our gods and angels gathered together and said, "It's tough down there being a human being, we know. Here, have some delights." Yeah, it lets us know that we've got it pretty great. If we can take the time to create something, then we have enough energy left over after taking care of our basic necessities that we can take the time to create something. And that in and of itself is a huge blessing. It doesn't discourage me in the least, in other words, to know that my life's work is arguably useless. All it does is make me want to play. So, good point. Flowers are frivolous. So people who were farmers and could afford to plant flowers were seen as blessed. Because if you could afford to plant flowers and put water on the flowers, then you were extra lucky because everyone else may have had to be growing nothing but food. Like you couldn't spare extra water for flowers. You had to put it all on the corn or whatever you were eating. High stakes versus low stakes is the next chapter. Of course, it must be said that there are dark and evil places in the world where people's creativity cannot simply stem from a sense of play and where personal expression has huge and serious repercussions. True. If you happen to be a dissident journalist suffering in jail in Nigeria, or a radical filmmaker under house arrest in Iran, or an oppressed young female poet struggling to be heard in Afghanistan, or pretty much anybody in North Korea, then it is the case that your creative expression comes with life or death stakes. There are people out there who bravely and stubbornly continue to make art despite living under god-awful totalitarian regimes, and those people are heroes, and we should all bow down to them. So art can be kind of a fuck you to the establishment, and often is. I mean, luckily we live in a place where we can, give the finger to the man through our art and not be murdered for it. Other countries can't. Who's the Chinese artist? Dang it, I hate that I am not going to remember. I watched a documentary about him and I follow him on Twitter. He's a Chinese artist and he gets in trouble all the time with the government because of his art, and the things that he expresses are anti-political, but he's so well known and has such a huge following that the government they mess with him, but they don't kill him off yet. But every time he makes a new creation, he's literally taking his life in his hands. And that takes some serious balls right there. Let's be honest, that ain't most of us. I can't remember his name, right? We are horrible people. His name should be, always rememberable. Who's got the Google? Chinese artist, political dissident. Damn it. I want to say it starts with a W. Darn it. I feel terrible I can't remember his name. I remember his face, and that he has lots of cats. He loves cats, so, In the safe world in which you and I he's a political artist. I want to say it starts with a W, but I just can't remember. Oh well. The point is, I admire the heck out of him because he's a martyr for art, I guess, or he could be a martyr for art. He has a lot of passion. He has things he wants to say, and yes. There it is right there. No, that's it. I think. Wei. I can't remember. Anyway, I think that's it. Well, he's Chinese. I don't know that I would have the guts. I don't know that I would have... he has a family. So I don't know that I would have the fearlessness that he has to know that every time he creates a new art expression, it could mean he's dead. It's putting his life at risk. Ai Weiwei. That's it. That's how you say it. Ai Weiwei. Very cool. In the safe world in which you and I most likely live, the stakes of our creative... Banksy is awesome, but he hides his identity. Yes. Did you see that there's a trending topic on Facebook where they're using geographical something or other to try and figure out Banksy's identity? Also, I thought it was interesting that he sold his art on the street in New York and for like $15. And people were buying it, not realizing that they were buying for like $15, $20 a piece of art that's worth, hundreds and thousands of dollars. So that's super cool. He's more in the shadow. I still admire people who do that on such large scales. Okay. The stakes of our creative expression is pretty low. At the most, we're going to get sued by somebody, get a civil lawsuit. That's the most that's going to happen to me, is someone will sue me in a civil lawsuit because I said to meditate before they medicated, and they really needed medication, and, you know, something horrible happened, and someone could sue me. That's the worst that's going to happen. I'm not going to die from it. I feel like I need to wear a disclaimer. The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the speaker. I usually do. Yeah, I try to, because I grew up, my career, my professionally grew up in the social work field, which is heavy on the liability. So I got taught always to say a disclaimer. So anyway, for instance, if a publisher dislikes my book, they may not publish my book, and that will make me sad. Yeah, I try to. I don't want anyone to, I know, right? I don't want anyone who needs medication to ever think that I'm saying don't take it. I'm saying try some other things first. Knock the sugar out of your diet. Get some sleep. Use some essential oils. Drink some tea. Cut your caffeine. Take a walk. Do something. And then, if you need the medication route, do it. But if you think you need to skip all that and go straight for a Prozac, do that too. Who am I to judge? I've done it. I took Prozac before I knew that sugar was making me crazy. Cray. And not cray-mazing, but absolutely nuts. Okay, if nobody publishes my books, that will make me sad. But nobody's going to come to my home and shoot me over it. Yeah, take meds while you're looking at other options. Lots of options. Likewise, nobody ever died because I got a bad review in the New York Times. The polar ice caps will not melt any faster or slower because I couldn't figure out how to write a convincing end to my novel. Maybe I won't always be successful at my creativity, but the world won't end because of that. Maybe I won't always be able to make a living out of my writing, but that's not the end of the world either, because there are lots of other ways to make a living besides writing books, and many of them are actually easier than writing books. Writing books is not easy. And while it's definitely true that failure and criticism may bruise my precious ego, the fate of nations does not depend upon my precious ego, thank God. So let's try to wrap our minds around this reality. There's probably never going to be any such thing in your life or mine as an arts emergency. So that being the case, why not make art? Why not do what you want to do? Why not write what you want to write? There's no risk involved except some pain of ego and being vulnerable and getting your feelers hurt. And you'll survive if you get your feelers hurt. And actually, it will make it easier for you to do it again because you got your feels hurt. Once you get your feelers hurt like 100 times, then you're like, oh, I can handle this. I can go ahead and write some more. And if people don't like it or don't respond to it, I'll be all right. I've proven it to myself that I'll be okay, that I can get my little feelers hurt and I'll be just fine. I'll mope around and whine about it. And then I'll get over it and I'll be fine and I'll make something else. The problem is we don't teach ourselves that. We won't even take the risk of getting our feelings hurt so that we can learn that it hurts like a motherfucker and we'll be just fine. We learn that in sports, right? We learn to push ourselves in sports, that if you twist your ankle doing a layup, you tape it up and you keep going. If you're backpacking and you fall and, twist your knee, well, you wrap some duct tape around that knee and you keep going. We learn that physically. We don't learn it internally because we never take the risks that teach us that. You have to take the risk in the first place. Just like physically, you have to put yourself physically out there in order to fall. And then you learn that it's okay. Here's an example. Yesterday, Ashlyn, who didn't have any shoes on because I couldn't find their shoes and they won't wear them anyway, was running up and down the driveway after we got back from our little wagon trip. the first time she tripped on her toe, so she's 2 and she runs like her joints are connected with rubber bands. So she's running down the driveway. She trips and biffs it. And we're like, oh, you're fine. It's okay. Walk it off. Yeah. And so she whined a little bit and then she stood up. And then she kept doing it and running back and forth. Every time she fell after that, which was like 4 times, it didn't even throw her. She just stood up and kept running. She wanted to run. And the little bit of pain she was experiencing did not stop her from the joy she was experiencing by running up and down the driveway. A funny thing is that then Ashlyn started falling too. So when Ashlyn would fall, Avery would pretend fall. And so I was like, well, there's a visual of how we, teach each other and how we learn from each other and how we follow each other, even when it doesn't make sense. So anyway, you can do that with your emotions too. You can put yourself out there. You can be vulnerable. You can get your feelings hurt. And then you learn, just like physically, you can fall down and skin your knees and you can stand up and you can be fine. And you can continue the joy of creating the same as Ashlyn continued the joy of running up and down the driveway even though she'd skinned her little toes. You got to take the risk first though. You can't prove it to yourself until you take the risk. So if the fear of what can happen is paralyzing you, that's one area where you may have to just say, you know what? I'm going to take a Xanax and I'm going to do this. I'm going to get drunk and I'm going to put my poetry online. You might need some chemical assistance. I strongly do not recommend that. No. I have had some in the past though, and it was lovely. Mail you all oil samples and Xanax. Whatever it takes for you to get your nerve up and put your work out there, if that means you have to first put your work out there under a fake Facebook name, do that. I used to be really snobby about that and say, like, what kind of ass uses a pseudonym? If you're going to put your work out there, then you need to put your own name on it and just take it like a man. Now I'm like, if you need to ease your way into the water by using a pseudonym or a fake Facebook page, and that's what it takes for you to get your work out into the world, then do that. I'm not as big an asshole as I used to be. I used to be pretty harsh in my viewpoints. You put your name on that work. You get out there and you get your feelings hurt. Get back in the game. That's true for some people. It works for some people. It doesn't work for everyone. The most important thing is getting the work out into the world. And if you need to do that in a roundabout way, then do that. I did usually say it with love. Yeah, I didn't usually say it like that. But it was like, do it. At some point you have to do it. At some point you have to take the action. We can read these books and we can talk about these concepts all day long, but at some point you have to put your work out in the world if you want that total, authentic completion of the act of creation. It has to be taken out of inside of you, out into the world. There's a documentary called Finding Vivian Maier. She was an amazing photographer and also sounded like kind of like a wackadoo, but she did some amazing photography work, and it never made it out in the world because it sounds like she just dragged her feet about it. She did want it out in the world. She was pursuing getting it out in the world, but she dragged her feet about it, and she was really rigid and controlling about how it was going to get out there, and so it never did. It got discovered after her death, days after her death, fortunately by a young man who had the resources and the knowledge to recognize he had something priceless, and was determined to get it out there, and he did. It's a great documentary, Finding Vivian Maier, Maier. It's on Netflix. Watch it and take that as a lesson. If you've got some work, don't worry about if it's good or not. Just put it out there. Just get it out there. So, that's all I have on that today. Let's come back in about 10 minutes and talk about joy and what kind of oils go great on your balls. Okay? Love you, and thanks for coming. And please stop delaying if you have something creative that needs to be out there in the world. The rest of us are waiting to benefit from it. You're welcome. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. Love you guys.